for our first speaker, who will be discussing rethinking resilience, data-driven disaster risk reduction and management for a safer tomorrow. Everyone, please welcome ENP Maria Bianca D. Perez. So ENP Bianca has over a decade of experience in Philippine disaster risk management, including work with global experts on emergency and response management, scientific risk assessments, local planning and governance, disaster risk reduction, and resilience building. As the head of the DRRM office in Quezon City, she oversees the design, planning, and implementation of DRRM activities of the city with the goal in mind to build disaster resilient communities. Since 2017, she has led the development of the strategic roadmap of the city for building community resilience against disasters. Prior to working with the city government, she worked on long-term DRRM plans of mega cities around the world, such as Kathmandu, Amman, Mumbai, and Dhaka, as well as highly urbanized cities in the Philippines, such as the cities of Quezon and Pasig. She has had experience in implementing projects funded by multilateral organizations such as the World Bank, Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery, the Asian Development Bank, USAID, DPECO, and local authorities and national governments. An accredited trainer on contingency planning, public service continuity planning, and incident command system, she is also a GIS specialist and a licensed environmental planner. She graduated with a BS Geography degree from the University of the Philippines and holds a master's degree in public administration and governance from UP and CIPAD with a specialization on public policy and program administration. Everyone, again, let us welcome ENP Maria Bianca D. Perez.
Morning, everyone. Right. So thank you for that introduction. I'll be starting right away. My presentation is about rethinking resilience, a data-driven TRM for a safer tomorrow. So I'll be practical lang about sharing what 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 my experience, what our experience had been in Quezon City on on our approach for evidence-based and data-driven governance and how it contributed to our DRM programs. I'll start off just to give you a quick overview. I'll start off with what the current situation is in the city, what the hazards we are facing, and what challenges that we encounter on a day-to-day basis, and how and what practical solutions um, we implemented and we developed, particularly through planning, uh, to resolve the challenges that we face in Quezon City. So, ayun. So I'll start right away. So to give you an overview for Quezon City, so the city is the largest in the region. In Metro Manila, it encompasses one-fourth of the national capital region. And just to show you the geography of the city, so you can see here in the three maps, yung monitored rainfall namin last year. So the city is the largest kasi in the region in terms of population and in terms of land mass. So as you can see in the maps, there are symbols there of rain gauges, yung yellow circles. And this rain gauges, it shows yung rainfall that we receive on a in a given point in a given period of time. Um, and we monitor that on a daily basis. So just to show you yung expanse nung size nung city, we in the we currently have 18 rain gauges. And across the 18 rain gauges, you can see that hindi talaga pantay yung impacts of rainfall across the city at any given point in time. So this shows how localized the hazards or the weather conditions that we have in the city. And it cannot be really simplified by saying that if there is rainfall or we're going to experience this particular weather, that it's going to be standard or the same in the entire city. So I want to emphasize this fact because this is one of um the one of the main considerations that we have in the city government, particularly in DRM. Um, for planning our programs and for implementation, we always have to consider yung size because of the size of the city, because of the varied geographic conditions across our jurisdiction. There really should be very local solutions and strategies to handle each area, each community. So even when we say that Quezon, that the city government, parang we are already at the front lines, it is still our jurisdiction is still very large. Um, the population that we're handling at 3.1 million of residents is still the largest relatively in the entire country. And we have to consider ito nga, very localized yung characteristics ng mga barangays namin and even smaller than the barangays, the puroks. Okay? So other than rainfall, extreme rainfall that we are facing in the city, and of course, we experience varied conditions of rainfall in the city. In the year, 60% of tropical cyclones that enter the Philippine area of responsibility affect the city. So, in average, kasi um, the Philippines experience 20 tropical cyclones. Okay, so 60% of those, 9 to 12, affects the National Capital Region and of course Quezon City. So it doesn't necessarily mean that kapag pumasok hindi dumaan yung bagyo sa National Capital Region or nasa Luzon, hindi na maapektuhan yung 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 city. What it means is that regardless sometimes of how well, hindi naman regardless pero um uh maraming factors ang nakakaapekto ng impacts ng rainfall or flooding in Quezon City. And sa pagdating sa tropical cyclones, kahit na malayo yung isang tropical cyclone o yung bagyo, meron din pa ring paghahatak na nangyayari sa ulan um, or sa clouds sa weather over the city. So perhaps the DRM practitioners here in the room can also attest to that how complex the weather and the climate here in the Philippines and how it can really contribute to the varied conditions that a city may face on a daily basis because of our climate. And then because of climate change, there is also projection based on our localized climate change action plan that that projects an increase of 4.56% in maximum daily rainfall amount in the next 15 years. So later I can show you yung trend nung ating rainfall based on the monitored data that we have in the city. But this is true. Even in last year, you can see already na mas maulan talaga yung 2024 natin compared to 2023. And then entering 2025, we've experienced increased rainfall in the first few months, despite the fact that nagtuyot patapat. So our actual data here in Quezon City, local data, reflects this, that there is really more days that we are experiencing of heavier rainfall or increased rainfall. And then other than that, so we have rainfall, we have flooding. We also experience an average of 100 residential fires in the city in a year. So residential fires pa lang ito, wala pang commercial fires, wala pa yung ibang type of sunog na nangyayari sa mga lugar. So this is average. This is caused by many factors, primarily because of electrical arcing or syempre yung hindi maayos na connection sa kuryente. It might have that might have been brought also by rapid urbanization, na kapag kinonsider mo kasi na mas dense din yung ating population sa ilang areas, and hindi and some and dito sa mga areas ito, there are also presence of informal settler families that may have illegal electrical connections. Usually, ito yung nagiging contributory factor siya pagdating sa sunog. So other than fires, we're also traversed by the West Valley Fault, which can generate what we call as the big one, or the worst case scenario earthquake that can happen to Greater Metro Manila area cities. So ito yung magnitude 7.2 earthquake na maaaring yumanig sa buong NCR, and it can cause intensities 8 to 10 to the entire city. So intensity 8 kasi this is really devastating levels of ground shaking, meaning na sobrang lakas ng lindol, ito yung hindi na kayo makakatayo. So that's the most yung pinakamadaling intindihin what intensity 8 means on the earthquake intensity scale. Sa kapag nakatayo kayo, mapapa-crouch kayo or babagsak kayo kasi sobrang lakas ng pagyanig. So that's how strong the worst case scenario earthquake that we're expecting here in Quezon City. And also every year, because of all of these hazards, yung sunog, yung baha, yung malakas na ulan, we evacuate an average of 10,000 individuals. So 10,000 individuals ang kinikater sa evacuation center, pinapakain, binibigyan ng basic needs. And actually last year, tumaas yung average na ito, tumaas nga dahil because of Typhoon Karina, which occurred July last year, wherein we evacuated 80,000 individuals. So kung in average is 10,000, last year sobrang nag-spike siya kasi because of the extreme rainfall we experienced during Kef Irina, maraming binaha. Yung 10,000 na average namin naging 80,000. So that's really a challenge for the resources for the city, wherein of course we are expected and we are mandated to really protect and safeguard the lives of all of these people that we saved, that we preemptively evacuated, to make sure that they are living, they have dignified living in our camps. So that's an overview of Quezon City. So in terms of hazards, so we have this very large city, 16,112 hectares, 161 square kilometers, 3 million population, 142 barangays. Some barangays have populations bigger than San Juan or Makati. So it's like a microcosm of the country, right? So it's really large, so big. And in terms of natural hazards, we have rainfall na iba-iba yung conditions across the barangays. Kung umulan sa Fairview, hindi necessarily na umuulan din sa south, sa May Laloma, sa Welcome Rotonda, diba? And then we also have earthquake, and then we have sunog, right? So this is the current situation we have. All right, sige, next. In terms of DRM landscape, okay, so before we had planning, before data-driven governance, since this is the situation of the city, what was happening before, lalo na nung Ondoy, was that we were rescuing people, hundreds scores at a time. So kapag nandiyan yung ulan, lalabas yung mga responders, yung mga buhay nila nakataya din to save people who needs to be rescued. Ang camp management hindi it's chaotic because camp managers or barangays do not expect that people will be coming in and to the evacuation centers. Yung mga principals kinakalampak yung mga schools nila kasi hindi nila alam gagawin pala silang evacuation center. And because of that, hindi enough yung food, yung goods that and relief packs that are provided to the evacuated families. Pagdating sa response, we do not know where our responders are. May mga bumagsak na puno. So it's chaotic how before, lalo na before 2020, before 2010, where kung kailan kung kailan kung kailan bumaba yung batas on the Philippine DRM Act of 2010, how chaotic things have been before. Okay, sige, next. And then in terms of gendered impacts, I'd like to just highlight a story by the woman on the lower left corner box. So this is Michelle Antepuesto. So she is a resident of Barangay Bagong Silangan. So I have a video later. I'm hoping that it can be played, but it's okay if it's not. Pero si Miss Michelle Antepuesto, Mrs. Michelle Antepuesto with her 4-year-old kid dito sa lower left box. She's one of the affected individuals who were safely evacuated before Typhoon Ulysses laid waste to their home in 2020. So I wanted to highlight her experience kasi during that incident, she was staying at she was staying at home nang mag-isa lang siya, tapos buntis siya. Tapos, ninarrate niya yung experience niya of evacuating for her family. And nung time na yon, she was heavily pregnant. Nananganak siya shortly after that typhoon. And it really highlighted yung experience sa isang individual pa lang who's pregnant, and yung tubig umabot sa mga bahay nila. Of yung naging experience niya sa loob ng evacuation center. Pagdating niya doon, naasikaso ba? Meron ba siyang space? So it shows that it's just in that experience of an individual alone, there are very different effects that that depending nga dun sa characteristic of the population who are affected, that results to different needs. And really, based on our data, it actually shows that 20% of our displaced individuals, dun sa 10,000 that we got in average na evacuated individuals in a year, dun sa 10,000, 20% of those actually, based on actual data ng Quezon City, are solo parents, pregnant women, lactating, persons with disabilities. And then almost 50% are children. So you can imagine that's an average. And there's the data that we got. Almost 50% are children, including those with disabilities. 48% ng mga babae na ine-evacuate namin are heads of households. Kasi sila yung mga naiiwan sa bahay, tapos sila rin yung nag-aasikaso sa mga pamilya nila. And these women, heads of households, kapag nasa evacuation center na, they are burdened with caregiving roles of managing household needs. Of course, sila rin yung bahala sa ensure na access sa basic needs like food, water, sanitation. So, on top of the challenges in developing programs in developing solutions for DRM because of the current situation of the city, on top of the lapses in response years before because lack of data, meron pa yung actual na nangyayari during disasters, during evacuation, that there are very different and varied impacts to the individuals and families who are inside the evacuation camps. That the challenge doesn't end when you have saved these people from their homes, but it still continues. There is still how will you be able to provide for them in the evacuation camps? How are you going to make sure that they are still living with dignity? They have quality of life pa rin sa evacuation camp at hindi lang basta binagsak sila doon. Right? So, diba parang ang dami-dami nating problema. but that's just to set also the groundwork. This is what we have to tackle on. Okay, next. So all right. So what is the so with this situation, with this circumstances, so this is just to summarize what I mentioned earlier. So basically, without data-driven governance, we are reactionary, hindi ganun ka proactive. Nakaabang na lang sa kung ano yung mangyayari on a daily basis. Nakaabang kung ano yung ma-experience ng mga evacuees sa loob ng evacuation center. Back in Ondoy in 2009, we experienced 464 deaths. And ironically, mahirap hanapin kung saan yung 464 deaths na to. I got this from a study. We got this from a study on flooding. I think it was a study on the flood management plan for Metro Manila. But it just indicated the total number of deaths for the entire region. Hindi man lang siya disaggregated kung saang city galing, kung ano yung naging cause of death. So there was really lack of data, or at least siguro hindi ganun kalaki yung appreciation of data, or that may be a result of a lack of systems back in 2009, back in Ondoy. Yeah, we only have this information. Na noon doon may 464 na namatay, pero hindi natin alam kung saan sila. We just know it's somewhere in the National Capital Region. Even in and then later on, in later years, we still suffer deaths. We do not know how many are really evacuated in sites. It's not standardized kung ano yung care na nakukuha nila doon. And overall, marami ring mga bata yung apektuhan. And that's just the flooding and due to rainfall. Sige po, next. And then in terms of climate change, in terms of hazards, we're still going to experience something worse in the future because based on our risk assessments, the 100-year worst case flood scenario, almost 380,000 persons could be displaced. Parang mas worse pa sa Typhoon Karina last year wherein we saved 80,000 individuals. It can say dun sa aming risk assessment, it indicates that it can even increase up to 380,000 yung pwedeng kailangan i-cater ng SETI. And then from this, kapag dinisaggregate, malaking part dito, mga kababaihan, mga bata, at saka mga matatanda. And then as you can see in the rainfall data here in Quezon City, yung nung 2024, sobrang taas ng rainfall na tanggap niya. These are the blue, ito yung blue shaded areas sa ating graph. Compared sa 2023, talagang mas mataas yung rainfall, mabigat na rainfall ang natanggap natin. And if you look at the red bars, yung sa red bars is the rainfall this 2025. Kung mahabol lang 2025, na sana wag naman. Pero just in the first few months of 2025, yung ating rainfall, yung highest rainfall natin for 2025, this is in Quezon City, is already recording higher records of rainfall compared to 2023 and 2024. So this is just for the first 5 months of 2025. So this is just for 3 years. We're still collecting for the previous years, pero this is the trend. This is what the science is telling us, and this is what we are actually observing for the past few years, and it's true. There is really more intense rainfall is mas frequent, and ang tropical cyclones natin is magiging mas intense. All right, so that's just flooding, and this is for rainfall. So this is for earthquake. For earthquake naman, I'm showing you a map of the city divided into the specific barangays that are transected by the West Valley Fault. So in the magnitude 7.2 earthquake, we are anticipating 9 barangays lang transected by the fault. Pero as I mentioned, it doesn't, regardless of yung kung gaano kalayo sa regardless of dun sa na traverse ka ng fault line ng West Valley Fault, kapag nasa Quezon City ka, you can experience ground shaking with intensities as high as intensity 8. So kahit nandun sa may green areas that are indicated in the map on the right. But there are projections that we can also have about 12,000 fatalities if this happens. Okay, next. So with all of these challenges that we have, how do we start? How does one begin? How does their practitioner start on developing solutions? How can a city home to over 3 million protect our population, protect our assets, our gains, our economic progress? So Quezon City does it by looking first at global solutions and priorities. and seeing how these align to our national programs as well. So global solutions and priorities such as the Paris Agreement, the Sustainable Development Goals, and of course, for DRR, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. So we have to look beyond. We have to look up globally. What others are also doing? What is the standard for DRR? We have to really set high standards for this. We have to look at international standards, international framework. Um, so from the global solution, we saw we look at how we can localize it. Because as you've seen kanina sa Quezon City, sa occurrence pa lang ng rainfall, sa occurrence pa lang ng ng flooding, very unique na talaga yung circumstances per community. Depende sa location mo or depende dun sa geography mo. So we really have to develop local solutions, but we have to base it on international standards and global frameworks so that we hindi rin kami haphazard. And again, we are enabled by the law, by the Philippine DRM Act of 2010. So that is the beauty of our of the Republic Act 10121. It really enables cities to be drivers of change, to be drivers of solutions when it comes to DRRM. It enables and authorizes city. It actually requires us to really develop solutions catered and customized to the city according to our needs. And it does not necessarily impose on us specific solutions, but it really gives us the flexibility to tailor fit programs. And how do we do that? And as I mentioned, how Quezon City does it, we look at our partners abroad, we look at international benchmarks, we look at international frameworks and standards and goals. So let me just show you some examples of so let me show you. All right. So this is the localizing global solution. So all of our programs are in a local DRM plan 2021 to 2027. And now that just to give you some example of the DRM solutions we developed because of the intensive planning that we have carried out and how we cater to the specific needs of our population. Okay, so in localizing solutions, we start by, of course, we have to get data. We have to get data and we have to digitize our systems because that's our first step. Before we can really tackle a problem, before we can really develop a solution, para hindi siya bara-bara, we have to understand first what the problem is. And to understand the problem, you have to get the data. We have to we have to understand disaster risk. And iRise Up is a clear example of this system of data collection and processing data and understanding it to really develop programs. iRise Up is our early warning systems. So iRise Up stands for Intelligent, Resilient, and Integrated Systems for the Urban Population. And this you saw yung I can give later yung QR code on how you can access iRise Up. But it's on my cover cover page kanina nung aking presentation. So how you can access. So here in iRise Up, this is our early warning system. And our early warning system is founded on the strategy of collecting data from the communities through digital and traditional means um, of digital and traditional means of data collection. So digital meaning that we have equipment such as rain gauges, flood sensors, we have earthquake monitors, we have weather stations, air quality monitors. So we collect data from there. Plus, we consider the institutional knowledge of our communities. So meron kaming means of getting reports from our barangays on what is actually happening to verify the equipment in data that we have from the ground to check of what's really happening because it really happens. Like for example, there is one situation wherein our sensor do not record any rainfall, but then our community mismo ang nagsasabi uulan po or parang malakas ang ulan. So iRise Up is to combine those two methods of data collection, digital and traditional, and using the data collected from both to develop programs to plan better and to decide on matters that needs urgent action during disasters. So this is how we really how we see effective planning really contributes to really saving people's lives. So I can show the the video. I hope it plays. Yeah, and let's play. So since it's not playing, I think I can go na lang. I can move forward. I believe naman that I think the secretariat will be providing copies of the presentation. Will you? All right. So okay. So maybe you can already you can just play it on your, but as it is, the video kasi is 3 minutes long, so that pwede kong i-encap ikliin yung aking presentation. But this actually just shows what we have in the iRise Up and yung experience nga ni Miss Michelle Antipuesto and how it really influence our planning for early warnings to make sure that there is feedback mechanisms na consider namin yung needs nila. Okay. So in iRise Up, so this is one component of our early warning systems, yung aming smart weather camera. Since walang sounds yung ating video, I'm just going to show you some maps of what iRise Up components kung ano yung components ng iRise Up. So this is one component, yung ating weather cameras or smart weather systems that we installed across the city. So currently we have 51 installed, and it shows this is where we get information on localized weather. So this is we see na parang may areas na umuulan, merong ibang areas na hindi. And we use that information to mamaya papakita ko saan nagli-lead yung data that we get from here. But this is just one source or one means of getting data for rainfall and weather in Quezon City. And also we have our rain gauges, which are currently we have 44 rain gauges, also spread out across the city. So we spread it out so that we are able to capture yung very specific and localized rainfall conditions across the city. And then we also have our flood sensors. So flood sensors, ito yung kapag may tubig na at tumataas, so we are able to record kung ano na yung status ng inundation in these areas. So ito, compared to rain gauges, ito kasi meron ng water na nakakapag-inundate na dun sa area. Kapag rain gauges, we get rainfall, how much we get the data on how much rainfall fell in a given area for a given period of time. So how do we make use of this information to for decision making and planning? So since we collect all of this data, we were able through planning to divide our barangays into what we call as barangay clusters. So which I am showing on the screen right now. So barangay clusters, right now we have 13 barangay clusters. This is solely for the purpose of DRM decision making processes and warnings. So barangay clusters were developed according to how rainfall or storm water behave during rain incidents. So we developed them on the basis that this is the clusters, this is the barangays which have the same experience kapag meron silang nararanasan na ulan for a given period of time. So based on their history of flooding, yung presence of weather sensors, hinati-hati namin yung mga barangay para kapag nakapag-warn kami, magkakasama yung clusters together. So for example, ang main example on how we use the barangay clusters is the class suspension policy of the city. So in Quezon City, we have a policy for localized class suspension. And the localized class suspension is based on these 13 barangay clusters of the city and the experience that they have during rainfall, or the anticipated impacts that they will have um, given the rainfall that occurred for the past few hours kahit hanggang the day before. Okay, so we are able to decide on which schools to suspend during rainy season, based on where they are located here in the barangay clusters. So since we consider and we consider we really put importance to learning continuity in our children, and also we take into consideration of the increase and more frequent rainfall incidents in the city because of climate change. We um, we know that we are also getting data and information from our equipment and from our barangays during rainfall incidents and during the rainy season. So we combined all of this information to develop itong clusters na naging basis namin kung ano yung mga clusters o ano yung mga schools na kailangan mag-declare ng class suspension for. So for example, rainfall has occurred for a given period of time, the day before, the night before. And since we anticipate that some barangays have similar experiences based kung ganito yung klaseng ulan na matatanggap nila. So we have actually on the, pinag-aralan namin kung paano yung behavior ng stormwater sa kanila at kung paano yung magiging epekto ng ulan na natanggap nung ilang oras before doon sa mga schools na nakalocate sa kanilang jurisdiction. So, iRise Up actually gave way for us to get data and to understand that data, process that data so that we can decide according to what the data tells us that where the flooding will be or where the schools are affected. And again, what's important here is that we are not entirely basing it from equipment data, from the digital means of systems that we have. But iRise Up is digital and traditional. We always consider kung ano ang reports sa amin ng barangay, kung ano yung reports ng committee. The recommendation ultimately comes from the communities themselves. So this is data-driven decision-making sourced from the iRise Up, from the digital and the traditional means of information collection that we have. So nabuo namin itong barangay clusters solely because we have that data, because we were able to plan properly based on the data that we collected. So this is our examples of our cluster approach to address the flooding. So as I've mentioned, this is one of our bases for localized class suspensions, at least announcements of localized class suspensions. Kaya meron lang mga specific schools ang sinususpend at hindi yung buong Quezon City. Again, you know what Quezon City, yung geographic yung geography ng city, how big it is, that rainfall doesn't happen in a standard way, in a standard manner, na lahat ng buong Quezon City pare-pareho yung nararanasan. You've also seen yung hazards sa city na meron lang talagang areas na talagang catch basin, and there are some which are not really that heavily impacted given a certain rainfall incident. So this is one of the things wherein very apparent yung data and yung use of data to effective planning, to decision making during actual emergency situations or situations wherein kailangan ng executive decision for community action. For this instance, yung kung pagpasok ng mga bata sa public schools. And there are certain advisories that we have developed. So makita nyo sa art card sa kanan. Ito pong mga art cards na ito, yung mga barangays po ang nakakatanggap. May specific na advice sa kanila kung ano yung mararanasan nila based on their cluster, based on their geographic location, at kung ano yung pwede nilang magawa given na ito yung forecast sa cluster nila at any given time. The data and information that we have and collected from iRise Up also pave way for us to understand kung saan may need for evacuation at saan may need for search and rescue. So for example, we have we anticipate this type of rainfall, meron na kaming projection kung sino yung pinaka maapektuhan, we can already advise people on when and sino yung kailangan mag-preemptively evacuate. And to assist them, we have to have our people there to assist. So this also led to us kung paano namin ipaplano yung prepositioning of our equipment and our people. So given that we already anticipate kung saan yung impacts, then we already know we have to preposition our manpower there at hindi yung tipong kunwari may emergency na, doon pa lang kami pupunta. So currently, right now, we have 7 specific locations wherein our DRMO personnel are prepositioned, including the main office. And nakaplano rin kung ano yung qualifications ng mga tao, ano yung competence ng mga personnel na dapat nakalocate doon. So, because of data that we collect, like for example, in the given day, meron kaming mga emergency cases for vehicular accidents, for emergency that needs or medical trauma na we experience on a daily basis. So we using the data kung saan yung mga occurrences na yon, kung saan mataas yung cases, kung saan may specific kailangan ng needs, we prepositioned our people doon sa areas kung saan may mataas na need. So that's also second example of how we use data to not just make decisions for specific community action, but also how we preposition our resources, including our manpower, to certain locations so that our response time is shorter and we are quicker to respond to emergency cases. Okay, so this is to also show you of how even how our decisions for heat index are affected and are how planning using data that we collect contributes to our actions for heat. So here in the left portion are the actual data collected by our weather stations in Quezon City. Kung gaano kataas umabot yung heat index that we are experiencing in Quezon City. Yung bright yung dark red is the yung red lines are the heat index that we have experienced in previous years. Yung peak heat index that we have experienced is reflected in the light blue bars. So dito nakikita namin kung ano yung trend ng init na nararanasan at napo-forecast na for the city, and this is how we also foresee and anticipate kung ano ba yung mga levels and anong type of interventions that we have to implement during these periods. So as you can see, talagang dun sa first half of the year, or at least dito sa Feb to May, doon nagpipeak yung init sa Quezon City. But going on to the later parts of the year, pababa naman siya. So this gives us an idea kung on the timeline of our interventions and even on class suspension. But as you've noticed for the past few days, medyo tuloy-tuloy na lumalagpas ng 40 degrees yung heat index natin sa Quezon City. So this contributes also to the city government rethinking on the timeliness of our interventions for heat, on class suspension as well, and also to health interventions that we have to implement to address yung health hazards posed by extreme heat. And on the right side, this is the graph. This is the chart that I showed earlier na about rainfall. Okay. So how did data and planning also contribute further into the flooding problem? So based on the drainage master plan, so the drainage master plan was developed by the city with the University of the Philippines Resilience Institute. We studied the main causes of flooding in the city and identified specific points that we can determine as flood prone areas, and these are the main causes of flood in the city. So the Drainage Master Plan deduced that, of course, we have that the city has some ineffective drainage structures. There's flooding because of natural low elevation. There are obstructed waterways, and areas are flooded because of proximities to waterways. So these are the main reasons or causes of flooding as determined by the Drainage Master Plan. So through the Drainage Master Plan, what are the interventions that were developed? So again, through planning, with all of the main causes that were identified, sobrang dami ang pwede, and ang daming locations na kailangan prioritize. So we divided the two interventions to structural and non-structural. So based on the study and based on what was found as the main causes for flooding, we determined that the structural interventions should focus on increase in pipe capacities in specific areas for the city, increase in drainage capacity, construction of storage facilities, and reduction in peak flow rates to LIDAP. We determined dun sa structural recommendations, actual locations nitong mga flood control projects. But as you know, uh, and I want to be transparent about this, it's not cheap to have flood control projects. Item 3, which is the construction of storage facilities, which you can see dito sa photo na ito. This is an example of a basketball court or a multi-purpose court in Quezon City. Example of a design that we want to implement in our multi-purpose halls in Quezon City. Because usually, ang mga multi-purpose halls at saka basketball courts and covered courts sa Quezon City, ginagamit as evacuation center at ginagamit din siya as, of course, recreational centers ng communities. And we also saw the opportunity na pwede siyang lagyan ng retention basin sa ilalim. So retention basins act as like imbakan ng tubig. So bago pa maging baha yung tubig ulan, pwede siyang imbak sa ilalim ng lupa. And our covered courts can be reconstructed to become as storage facilities for flood waters. And this, just one unit alone, can cost as high as 70 million pesos. In the Drainage Master Plan, we have identified over 160 locations. 160 locations wherein we have to develop these retention basins. And each retention basin costs 70 M. So that's just item 3. So, and yung items 1, 2, and 4, they are all flood control projects na depende na sa locations. It can go past the 300 field points that were identified in the Drainage Master Plan. So it is really expensive just to go for structural interventions. But at least we have a guide map. We have a roadmap that we are using in the Drainage Master Plan. We know what to do. We just need to find the resources for it. For non-structural recommendations, we also determined that to improve our flooding, we have to also invest on non-structural interventions such as inventory and mapping and rainwater harvesting system. But through the Drainage Master Plan, we wouldn't be able to have a really concrete plan on the reduction of flooding and therefore reduction of disaster response and reduction of evacuation instances for the city. So we know now that we now have a roadmap. We now have goals. We have targets. We can now determine how much we need and what we will need to do for the year para mabawasan ang pagbabaha. And then of course, planning for DRM, it contributes for not just yung mga binention ko kanina, but also for capacity development for personnel. We'll know who to train, sino yung mga kailangan i-prioritize for awareness raising, drills and exercises. We know also kung kanino ibibigay yung mga IEC materials. We have IEC materials. I think we just produced 50,000 guidebooks for parang mga what to do's for disasters. But then we have 3 million in population. So we cannot give everyone. So we just have to prioritize. But through planning, we know who to prioritize. We know who to give the first 50,000 sets of guidebooks for, who to train, who to exercise. We also have a roadmap for emergencies for children. We also have, of course, the local DRM plan, contingency planning, the local climate change action plan, public service continuity plan, and crisis management manual. So all of these plans are possible and are being implemented because of the data that we have and because of digitized systems that we have in the city. Further on, to really have reflection kung paano siya nakaka-apekto sa ground, we are able to provide health insurance for women personnel because we saw, based on the data that we have, on on community engagements, kung ano yung nangyayari during evacuation, that we need specific assistance for our women. We also have community-driven campaigns in all of the barangays. We have established a Quezon City Protection Cluster in disaster response. We are able to provide feminine supplies of specific needs to evacuees. We are able to establish program for caring for the carers. So yung mga responders na babae, yung mga frontliners na kailangan din may mag-alaga sa pamilya nila, we are also established to provide program for that. We have community savings groups established, and 46,902 trained individuals in 2019 are women. So ito just to show that we are also able to have gendered interventions, gender sensitive interventions, because we now know that there are specific and unique needs for our communities on the ground. We're also able to develop innovative programs such as the Quezon City Green Awards. Because of feedback mechanisms, because of community engagement, we're able to, and planning exercises in the barangays, na determine natin that there are specific strategies that we can implement with our barangays, with our youth, wherein we can give incentives to them kasi meron silang mga innovations that they have that the city can just give, give, can fund. So in the Quezon City Green Awards, the youth, sangguniang kabataan, barangays, schools, hospitals, when they have a proposal for climate action or DRM activity, they are given a chance to be given a grant by the city. So yung grant na binibigay sa kanila, this year, aabot ng 300,000 per grant. It is used to fund their own innovation projects. So based on data kasi, there are initiatives in the community there are initiatives by the community that they really want to help in the city's thrust for climate action and there are, but they just need resources. So this is one way for us to really empower our communities. And because that's what our data said, that this is an optimum intervention that we can empower our communities and at the same time encourage local champions for climate action and DRRM. So I'll just skip the video. And then also, planning well also gives us a way to develop programs like Rescue Olympics. Rescue Olympics is skills, it's a competition among our disaster response team because our data says that again, the city cannot respond on our own. Kami-kami lang. We have to really empower our barangay officials, our barangay people, our barangay personnel na sila mismo dapat competitive sila pagdating sa disaster response, sa emergency situations. So here in our Rescue Olympics, we incentivize our barangay emergency response teams na in times na hindi kakayanin ng city government responders, the barangay frontliners are there. They are trusted and they are empowered to respond on their own. And because this is because the data says that we need better community response and that we need to really build trust in our community responders because there is apparently there is also a need to increase yung to decrease yung distrust sa mga community responders kasi mas gusto makita yung sa city government. So this is one intervention that we really saw that we get an opportunity to really build the competency of our barangay responders. Maging competitive sila so that they can according to our standards so that they can be trusted by their committees to respond during emergency situations. So some awards that we have that have recognized the interventions such as I Rise Up for that Quezon City has. I'm going to skip them. But just to give a bottom line summary on what I've mentioned on how planning really and how collaboration with the committees with the many sectors contribute to effective DRRM. So in and planning, we always emphasize on participatory approach. We also know that there's also what we call as a bibingka approach, right? Wherein yung papainitin mo muna yung taas, national government, and the local government. Tapos at the same time, we have to empower our communities, our other sectors sa ating baba. So all those approaches, they are just they are strategies that we can employ during planning. And what's important is that we know how all of these sectors play together so that we can develop a plan for a shared vision. So all of those, um, from the national government to the sector to the local communities, businesses, the civil society, and academe, if we are able to to um, consolidate inputs and insights from all of these sectors to collaboration and cooperation, we're able to implement a very effective approach in DRM and climate action that leads into a really data-driven governance uh, for the local government so that our impacts can really be felt by people. So to end my presentation, I'll just give off a quote from our mayor. Um, since climate change is really her trust, is among her trust in her during her administration. She said in an interview with C40 that it is crucial to recognize that climate change has further exacerbated inequality in our society, with our most vulnerable citizens bearing the brunt of this impact. For them, climate change is not merely an environmental issue, it is a matter of survival. So I chose this quote from Mayor Joy because this grounds us to what we are doing as their practitioners, as planners. That ultimately, it's not just what the challenges, the problems that we are trying to solve are not just problems on paper. They're not just figures that we have to assess or understand or just to write off or to pass on to on or endorse to another department. But these plans, these programs that we have, the interventions that we are implementing, they are for actual people, for individuals, yung mga tao na nasa community natin, yung mga nasa evacuation center, yung mga papunta sa evacuation center, yung mga nanay, yung mga matatanda. It's for all of these individuals because ultimately all of these problems, itong climate change, the problems that is brought on by climate change, they affect actual people. Of, of course, they have own families. And we have to keep our eyes on that. We have to always remind ourselves that para sa tao yung ginagawa natin at hindi lang ito parte ng trabaho, because lalo na po for public servants, it's easily taken for granted. We easily forget it that this is just part of our job. We easily forget who we do it for. Ultimately, yung pinaka mahihirap, yung vulnerable citizens, yung mga yung mga babae, yung mga matatanda, yung mga bata, para po sa kanila ito. And we have to so that and because of that, we have to do our jobs better. We have to plan more effectively because hindi only yung resources natin. And climate change is just going to bring in more problems, more issues for us. So we really have to prioritize better. And it ultimately is for them, it's for their lives. And who knows, it can also be our families, our loved ones are also part of that population. So ayun po, maraming salamat, and that ends today my presentation for this morning.
Sige, for our first question, this is a question by Mr. Paul Lazaro. And this is a question aimed for ENP Bianca. In dealing with disasters in Quezon City, do you do modeling and simulation as to how many will be affected and in what places will be affected greatly? Relative to this, do you include migrants to the city since there are those who work in Quezon City but come from nearby municipalities or provinces? On average, I think disasters affecting QC normally happen during daytime.
To answer that, yes, when we did the drainage, when Quezon City developed the drainage master plan for Quezon City, we UP and QC modeled and simulated the flood hazard in this map. So it's they are a result of modeling methodology and simulation methodologies that UP initiated. And our contingency plans actually take into consideration the daytime population, which includes the workers and visitors, I guess, from other cities. So yes, part siya sa baseline data namin sa mga emergency planning for scenarios.
For our next question for ENP Bianca. The question is, since the information comes from the communities themselves, have there been significant improvements in community behavior in terms of compliance to the DRRM policies and related policies related to public safety?
Um, I want to say that there's been a significant improvement in terms of preemptive evacuation. Um, Prior to having a data-driven approach for identifying communities to be evacuated first, um, parang blanket lagi yung naging advisory. So, um, medyo hindi nakukuha yung tamang guidance ng mga barangays about evacuation. So, based on our experience from all the incidents last year ng pag-ulan, nakapagbigay kami ng maagang advisory on preemptive evacuation on particular communities, on particular barangays. So very targeted na siya. Yung advisories namin specify which barangays and which areas in those barangays that we are prioritizing preemptive evacuation. And because of that, we were able to save hundreds of lives during those incidents last year. Um, may actual information kami on how many thousands of people we were preemptively evacuated before pa tumaas yung tubig ulan. And before we had all of this, there was no data like this. Our barangays were not prepared. They did not know that they were going to cater people. Yung mga tao, habang umuulan, dun sila pumupunta lang sa evacuation. But last year, we saw significant improvements in terms of marami na tayong nakikater na individuals na kahit hindi pa talaga nangyayari yung ulan or parang humupa yung ulan and hindi pa talagang tumataas yung tubig, nandun na sila sa evacuation site. So I want to think na improvement, yung mas marami kaming nakikater sa evacuation sites, ibig sabihin mas maraming nagko-comply, mas maraming naniniwala sa data, mas maraming naiintindihan na yung hazards. So yes, we will really work on building this, increasing trust in the system so that we can have more gains in the future.
Last question for ENP Bianca. The question is, may I inquire how much Quezon City has allocated to the DRRM initiatives? Is the iRise Up initiative something that low-income municipalities can share or be duplicated in the long run?
Um, we fund our initiatives through the local DRM fund, which is by law, it is 5% of the annual budget of the city. And from the 5%, 70% of which can be allotted to DRM initiatives, which I mentioned kanina, and 30% can only be accessed if there is a declaration of state of calamity. So what is important here is that not only do we fund our programs through this local DRM fund, but but through mainstreaming our activities with other departments and agencies programs, um, do we also enable additional funding? So, for example, our capacity building for our communities who have disabilities. So for persons with disability, we partnered with our Persons with Disability Affairs Office so that they can also have in their own programs, in their own fund budget, they can also have capacity building related to DRR. So it's while our source of funding is mostly from the city government, at least hindi po siya centralized lang around just one funding source. Naka-mainstream rin po siya from the other departments. And second, kaya po ba yan ng mga ibang municipalities? What we are espousing for iRise Up is actually the system. So currently po ngayon kasi, for example, um, Quezon City DRM office, dinirehab or dinirenovate po yung aming opisina. So meron po kaming temporary space lang sa City Hall kung saan doon muna kami nag-relocate. Nung nangyari po lahat ng pagbabaha at saka yung bagyo last year, nasa temporary office po kami. So it doesn't, so regardless of the technology that we have, kasi po lahat temporary po kami ngayon, regardless of the access that we have to the usual command center setup that we have, what matters is that we have the system. So yun po yung sinasabi namin for iRise Up. Regardless of how state of the art or where you are, kung ano po yung gamit nyo na equipment, kung ano po yung kaya nyo, ang mahalaga po is that you have the system of making use of the data from your communities. Meron kayong feedback or reporting system from the communities at saka anong data yung kailangan nyo po sa kanila. Plus, you have a system of collecting data from equipment or technology that is available to you, and how you combine those information and prioritize kung which ones to use, or how you put that in your plan. That's already iRise Up. So yes, other municipalities can model themselves after iRise Up, because what we espouse naman po is really the system rather than the equipment or the technology that we have. So yun.
And thank you, Ian Bibianca.